Okay, so basically what we want to do when we're trying to build up over time and get stronger and get bigger is we want to focus on progressive overload. And the easiest way to look at that is by looking at one simple exercise. So let's look at something that most people would do, which is probably the squat is a good example. So we'll go with the squat. Excuse my terrible handwriting, but we're going with the squat. So let's say you first start off squatting, you may not be very strong. So what you want to do is, let's say you're squatting, let's just go with the bar to start off with. So that's 20 kilograms. So 20 kilograms, and maybe you're doing that for 10 reps. So that is your first starting point. 20 kilograms, 10 reps, and 3 sets. So you do 10 reps, rest, 10 reps, rest, 10 reps. So that is your starting point there. Now, one way to look at it, if you want to track it properly, is we go over volume. So you have 20 kilograms multiplied by 10, multiplied by 3. And that's how you track your volume. What we want to do over time is, let's work that out. So 20 multiplied by 10 is 200, multiplied by 3 is 600. So 600 kilograms of volume. So this number we want to increase over time. The quickest way to increase it is or the easiest way to increase this one over time, so your weight. So increase weight. Oh. That's the main one we want to focus on, especially at the start. Your gains, hate that word, your strength will increase quickest at the start. So we want to focus on increasing that number there. So maybe next week you come in and you might move that up to 22.5. So all you've done is added a 1.25 on either side there. And that's enough to change this one, 600 kilograms. That will change that to a number that I'm not going to try to work out. But basically it'll increase it. So each time you want to be increasing that one, so that will go up over time. And the simplest way to do it is increasing weight. Sometimes you may get to a point though where maybe you've maxed out on this one, so let's say it's too heavy. So what you can do instead at that point is, rather than doing the weight increase, we can maybe increase the reps. And what you can actually do, because you're probably going to it'll be too heavy, like if it's too heavy, the 22.5 by 10, you're not going to be able to do 22.5 by 11. So what you can do instead, and I'm going to have to use a even number so I can actually work out the maths here, is we may drop it down to 17.5, and we'll multiply that by, let's even say we just bring that to 12, and we go for 3 sets. Not too sure if my maths is actually going to work out correctly with this, because it is quite a low weight and it may not work out. But let's follow me over to the computer and I'll quickly check this out to see if it's right. So, calculator. Alright, so what have we got? 17.5 multiplied by 12 multiplied by 3. There we go, it actually worked out properly. So with that then comes to 630 kilograms of volume. So that is another way to actually increase it over time. Now your third alternative is increasing sets. I wouldn't recommend that too much, because that's going to be a massive jump there. Because just adding that extra set there is going to multiply all these numbers as well. So leave the sets as a last resort. You want to increase them slowly over time. So let's just focus on these ones for now. And what we want to do, what I normally recommend for most people, is you may do your training block for 8 weeks. So you'll squat for 8 weeks and you'll slowly increase that amount over the 8-week block. It may not be every week, but over time you're going to increase that volume there. So over time it's going to build up. After that 8 weeks, maybe you go on to another exercise. So you may switch it out for a leg press instead. And that's fine. Same process. You'll find your starting weight, and starting reps, and again, you'll increase that over time. Then when you go back to these squats over time, maybe you've done 8 weeks on these ones, so 8 weeks. Then what you can do instead, after that 8-week block, then you rotate back to squats again. And you'll be able, if you've tracked it properly, you can see where you were last time. So maybe you may not start off, let's say over that 8-week block, for the first 8-week block you got up to, let's say you moved up to 35 kilograms for 10 reps at 3 sets. So maybe you may not actually go straight back to that one because you've had a little bit of time off of squats, so you've got to get the feel for the exercise again. So what you can do instead is maybe start off at 30 by 10 by 3. So at least you're at a lighter weight, so you know you can get a feel for it and then increase over time. But what's going to happen there is over that 8-week block this time, maybe you may move up to 45 kilos. So you see how over time you get that progressive overload and you can build it up gradually. You never want to rush these things. It's a slow process. Otherwise, if you rush it and you go in for, this is what actually I see a lot sometimes, is straight away that people will jump into these programs that you see on bodybuilding.com or anything like that, and these crazy ones where it's like 10 sets straight off the bat. So what may happen then, and what could possibly happen, is your body adapts. Adapts. That's bad. You know what I'm trying to say though. So it adapts to those 10 sets, which means you'll adapt to it quickly, so you'll build muscle, but then you've kind of hit your threshold, so there's no way really to increase from there. So take it gradually, build up over time, don't rush these things, and you can see different ways you can increase it here. Now, with the reps as well, you don't always have to stick to those 10, obviously. So if you were going back to that after the 8-week block, maybe you could have went back to another alternative would have been, dropped it down to 8 reps, which means realistically you may have actually been able to start off with the 35 kilograms. So you could have went 35 right from the start. And again, you're going to increase your training volume over time. So hopefully that helps out, guys. You can see a few different ways to increase your progressive overload. These are probably the simplest methods, and they're the ones that I use all the time. I never like to overcomplicate my programs because then it becomes too hard to track and you never know what point you're actually at. I always like to track things so I can see that I'm improving over time. The beauty of what I do at the moment, I've actually got an app that tracks all of this for you. So as soon as you log back in and you've done a weight, you could have done an exercise years ago and haven't touched it in years, but you'll log back in, and if you put that exercise back in, it'll automatically show what you did previously, so you know what you need to increase to over time. And that's the beauty of that app. It makes this whole process so much simpler. There's a lot of different ways that you can increase your progressive overload or induce progressive overload. There's things like pause reps, time under tension, drop sets. These are all just ways that you can increase the volume that you place through the muscle. So with time under tension, you do a slower movement, which means that your muscle is under tension for longer, which increases the volume that's placed through there. And so there are a few different ways. I tend to not use these ways too much because it just overcomplicates things. Keeps things basic, track it, and make sure you're improving over time. That's the key.